Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blues, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. This stream is brought to you by BetUS. So upon further review, we're going to turn the page from the Bucs game today as we start our attention on the New York Giants and what this game potentially could be for the Commanders. This is a big game. Obviously, I talked about that immediately after the Bucs game, that this is a big game because it's a home opener. It's a divisional game. We didn't win any last year. It's a game you need to win. And frankly, you don't win this game, it doesn't get any easier moving forward. You could find yourself 0-3, 0-4, 0-5. I mean, you start asking yourself, when does the first win come, right? So this is an important game for the Commanders, but we'll get there, right? Let's clean up the mess from Sunday against the Bucs. And, I always like to do this when we have an opportunity to watch the film. And the film was open to everyone yesterday. So if you haven't watched the film, please do yourself a favor. This is going to be a mob members exclusive moving forward. I wanted to give you a, preview of what you would be potentially getting if you become a member of the mob. Shout out to the mob. Stand up. We in the building. Y'all know what it is. Same with Patreon members. Thank you so much for your support as well. But watching the film is always, to me, so enlightening. Because you come away from the game, first blush, you haven't watched the film, you can't see all the players on the field, you don't know what's going on. And so you have all these, notions that you have from what you've just watched. And a lot of times they can't be further from the truth. You create these narratives in your head about what did or didn't happen. Then you watch the tape and you're like, oh, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Sometimes you think it's excellent, and then you get there and you're like, well, that wasn't as good as I thought. As a wise man once told me, nothing's as good as it seems, nothing's as bad as it seems. Somewhere in between, reality falls. And that's usually what the film is for me. So with that said, I want to talk about some takeaways from the film that were obvious to me after having a chance to comb through it. First things first, and a number of these will be me reiterating things that I've already said to you multiple times, so it won't be anything new. There'll only be maybe one or two new nuggets that I'm going to drop on you here. But the first thing I want to say is I want to start with Jayden Daniels, because there was a lot of conversations, especially after the film. People were like, oh, man, he reminds me of Robert Griffin III. I'm starting to get nervous. For what? Okay. That was a good debut by Jayden Daniels. My guy Derek B asked me, because he was part of the film session last night, and he asked me today, who had a better initial debut, right? And he said, I'm not talking about Sam's game against the Cowboys in Week 18, a meaningless game for Dallas, essentially. Talking about his Week 1 performance against the Arizona Cardinals last year. And I said, Jayden had a better performance. Now, I followed that up by saying, in Week 2, Sam's performance was ridiculous. It was excellent. We went on the road after a slow start. Remember, Sly missed a field goal. You could blame some of that on Cameron Cheeseman with the snap. But we got ourselves into a nice little hole there on the road, and then dug ourselves out of that hole and scored, 32 points or whatever, and ultimately won that game, I think 32-30 or whatever it was. So that was a fun, or I think it was 35-33 or something like that. But whatever the case may be, Sam Howell was excellent in his second game, but he not so much the first game, but he did enough to win again against a inferior opponent. Jayden played a much better team, and I thought he showed well. Now, yeah, there were some times where he could have cut it loose and he didn't, but that's a part of the process. I think by and large, he didn't put the ball in harm's way. When he didn't like what he saw, he took off and ran. His runs were very effective. I thought that when he had time to set his feet in the pocket and he was decisive, the ball was accurate and it looked good. And so I think there's going to be even more of that in store for us as we see a team this week in the Giants that will not blitz as much as the Buccaneers did and won't be as good, I don't think, defensively as Tampa Bay was. So we'll see, right? I think he'll be a lot more comfortable in week 2, home opener. But by and large, I thought it was a really solid debut for a rookie quarterback on the road against a playoff team from a year ago. And he's going to continue to grow from the performance that we saw on Sunday. Next thing, Cliff Kingsbury was really good. I thought he had a game plan that gave us a shot. There were opportunities down the field. Some of it we didn't get to because of pressure, because the offensive line didn't hold up. Some of it because Jayden didn't see it, right? Wasn't comfortable. Some of it was just, happenstance. He wasn't working that side of the field and a guy breaks wide open, right? The things happen. Like Mike Evans was open on a corner route for a touchdown. We blew coverage and he wasn't working that side of the field, right? Shit happens, right? So bottom line is guys were open. Contrary to popular belief, I saw all kinds of statistics. People were, really trying to shit on, the receiving core and, the offense and this and that and Cliff. And I think the demise of this offense is grossly exaggerated. I saw a stat. The Commanders had the least amount of open receivers on Sunday, according to NFL Next Gen Stats or some bullshit like that. Okay, I watched the tape. Guys were open. Okay. Are we creating massive amounts of separation? No. Okay. But are guys NFL open? Absolutely. You're damn right they are. And I thought Cliff did a good job of getting guys in positions to make it an easy throw for Jayden. And I think moving forward, you're going to see Jayden continue to get better at finding those open receivers and getting them the football in space and allowing them to work. Speaking of the offensive line, I didn't think they were, terrible after the game. I thought I actually thought they were above average in the game. I came back, we watched the film, and it was a rough start. It was a rough start to the game, but I thought after the start, I thought they settled in. And so I'd say it was a C performance from the offensive line. Some of you thought after the game, hey, I was guilty of this. I thought it was a B performance, right? B minus maybe, but it was in the B range. No, it was a C. It was a rock solid C. You could even argue a C plus. They weren't terrible. And it was a slow start though, right? Pressure early. But I thought after, they settled in, they were solid in terms of protecting Jayden, giving him time to survey the field and have enough time to get the football where it needed to go, right? I want to talk about the receivers really quickly. They've got to get Terry more involved. And I think there were, plays drawn up early in the game to try to get Terry a target. Maybe not as early as I would have liked, but there were some, plays drawn up for Terry to get some opportunities. And the line just didn't hold up early in the game. Nobody was going to get targets early in the game but my gripe is when you're throwing a wide receiver screen to Luke McCaffrey, you could be throwing that wide receiver screen to Terry McLaurin or De'Ami Brown, right? Somebody with more explosiveness, someone that's a little bit more dynamic with the ball in their hands than a Luke McCaffrey, right? That's my mindset. Like, I just think about De'Ami's wide receiver screen against the Miami Dolphins in the second preseason game. He catches that thing, and he's fearless. He goes up the field. He slams his body into Dolphin defenders and gets 8 yards. Luke McCaffrey's hesitating, and he allows a backside defender to get him on a 1 yard gain, no gain, right? Because he was hesitant to slam it up in there. I think there are other options of guys you can get the football to in those types of situations. If you're just trying to create a 4 or 5 yard gain, essentially extension of the run game with this wide receiver screen, if it pops, great. But if you just want 4 or 5 yards, there are other guys you can throw that football to just so they can get and be a part of the game, right? So I thought Luke, started to come of age in that game. Had, a few catches. The one down by the goal line was good to see. And they talked about him during the presser today, both Jayden and Dan Quinn. So I think he's going to continue to grow. They're going to, I think, work in Noah Brown this week. We'll talk more about that when we get into in other news and further into the program and further into the week. But all in all, I thought the receivers were solid. They were fine. We're going to be fine, and they're going to add Noah Brown to this group, and it's going to improve this group a little bit more moving forward. I've said this already. I'm going to say it again because I'm kind of going through all the positions on offense. The running backs were outstanding, and I think they're going to be really good for us this year. I think they're going to be two of the better players for us on the offensive side of the football, and Brian Robinson Jr. and Austin Eckler. Both of them were fan-effing-tastic in this game. And so I'm looking forward to seeing those guys continue to play the type of football that's going to take pressure off of Jayden Daniels moving forward. Quick side note, Brandon Coleman was solid, right? Didn't do anything spectacular in the game. You could tell he was a bit rusty, especially early on when he got in there. But I thought as he continued to play and continued to get reps, there weren't very many of them. He didn't play a lot of reps. But as he continued, I think he played 12 or 13 snaps or something like that. So, or 14, something like that. It wasn't very many, but as the reps continued to come, he continued to get more and more comfortable. And so I'd like to see him play a little bit more. And I don't know how that transition is going to go. I expect Cornelius Lucas to start again this week. And I think they're going to continue to work Brandon Coleman in. And at some point, I think we're going to see the baton passed to him on a full-time basis. But they're going to continue to work him in at the pace that they believe is going to be best for him moving forward. As you transition to the offensive or defensive side of the football, where we had probably the most concerns, first thing that stuck out to me, and I've talked about this already, was the defensive line. And, even the linebackers being an extension of that, how aggressive we were at attacking the line of scrimmage. 8 tackles for loss. And there could have been so many more if guys were able to, get Baker Mayfield on the ground, right? Get the running back on the ground, right? He had about 5 or 6 broken tackles, and he had 6 catches for 75 yards, did Rashad White, Jayden Daniels' former Arizona State teammate, which is why they swapped jerseys after the game. He should not have had that many yards receiving. We had opportunities to get him on the ground, and we just didn't. But same can be said for Baker Mayfield. But I love the aggressive nature of us up front. It was apparent. It was fun to watch. And I think moving forward against teams that are lesser than Tampa Bay, that don't have as mobile a quarterback or quarterbacks that have that ability to extend, you're going to see us wreak havoc up front. I really, truly believe that. Want to focus specifically on one player in particular who the stats may not bear this out, but Daron Payne was an animal in week number 1. The amount of times he got into the backfield with an opportunity to make a play was staggering. Now, having a chance to make a play and making a play are two different things. I am fully aware, but you can't make a play if you're not in a position to make a play. And that doesn't happen. That's not how it works. You got to be in a position. You have to put yourself in a position first before you can then make a play. And the amount of times he won up front against the Bucs was fun to watch. And I'm not telling you that the Bucs have the best offensive line in the world, because it was a young, inexperienced Bucs offensive line. He took full advantage. But the guys that he was going up against, specifically their guard, he wasn't inexperienced, and he was beating him like a drum. The Giants don't have a great offensive line, and I expect him to be able to do Ullman-like work against them. I think he's going to be outstanding. I think he's primed for a monster year. If he would have made half of the plays that he put himself in position to make, he would have had 2.5 sacks and about 4 tackles for loss in this game. Okay. That's just, it goes to show you just how dominant he had a chance to be in this game. He was everywhere and he was winning. He looked like the 2022, and this is what I was hoping for, right? He looked like the 2022 Daron Payne that was hunting a contract. And that's the guy that I know is in there. Didn't see him really last year. And he got double teamed a lot in this game. He was the guy that they looked at and said, anybody but him, right? And they did the same thing to Allen as well. But he was the guy that they really sought after when they said, hey, we're not going to allow one of these guys up front to beat us. It was Daron Payne, and he still was going to work. So I was impressed with Daron Payne in particular. I thought that there were some guys that played really hard, and I think that some big plays are coming from them here shortly. Quan Martin is a guy that I thought, was everywhere, especially down around the line of scrimmage, making some tackles. He was very active. Frankie Louvu, I thought, was extremely active, and he had a chance. You know who else was really good? And I thought, got a lot of pressure and was very active was Dante Fowler Jr. That it was fun to watch him fly around out there too. He's going to be, I wouldn't be shocked if we end this season and he's got 6.5, 7 sacks this season. He was really, really active and in the face of Baker Mayfield a couple of times, had a chance to get to him and just, again, like we talked about, couldn't corral him. But between Louvu and Fowler Jr. and Payne and Allen had his cracks at it as well. I think we're going to really, and don't forget about Dorrance Armstrong too. I thought, he did some solid things, but I think this is going to be a group that is going to manufacture pressure. Do we have one guy outside of Payne? I think, do we have one guy that can, beat a man one-on-one and get immediate pressure outside of Payne and Allen, but really Payne? No. But collectively as a group, do I think they can be formidable and really create havoc? Absolutely. I thought Bobby Wagner was really good. I thought Bobby Wagner also was really tired, and he still led the team in tackles. He had 2 tackles for loss on consecutive plays. He's reading everything. He's where he's supposed to be. Man, it's fun to watch him play. It's just fun to have competent middle linebacker play after being void of competent middle linebacker play for so long. It's so fun to watch a guy come downhill, and when the running back is ready to hit the hole, Bobby Wagner, 54, is staring him in the face like, where you going, right? Whereas other guys with, John Boom Bostic would be standing there like he's frozen, right? And 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage, allowing that running back to initiate and pick up 4 yards and before he even does anything. It's so fun to watch a guy in the hole waiting on the running back, right? He's going to be really good for us this year too. And then the secondary, let's get to the secondary. I know there's a lot. I honestly walked away from this game thinking to myself, wow, the secondary wasn't as bad as I thought. And I know you're going to tell me I'm crazy, and that's fine. I really walked away from this game saying, wow, this secondary, for as bad as it felt in the moment, these are correctable mistakes. Benjamin St. Juice's coverage was not bad, right? Was not bad. It's Benjamin St. Juice. He's not going to turn and locate the football. He had a chance at a pick. He dropped it. It's Benjamin St. Juice, right? Emmanuel Forbes wasn't terrible in this game. And come to find out, he wasn't benched for performance. He got injured. On that pass interference face mask, he actually hurt his thumb, right? So that's why he came out of the game. So they didn't bench him. So understand that he's going to be back out there against the Giants, probably in a starting capacity, which I said this. I personally would bench him, but I don't think they should. I'm emotional, okay? I'm a fan. They have a job to do, and their job is to try to get the most out of a former first-round pick. So don't listen to clowns like me who say, hey, sit his ass down and put in a different option. Their job is to develop a young, talented football player and try to get him to be his best at this level, right? So you can't quit on him. You got to keep giving him opportunities until you see that he physically can't. They can wipe last year from the memory bank. That had nothing to do with them. What happened before they got here is of no consequence to them. So we've seen that. We were exposed to that. So that's a part of our decision-making process. It's not a part of theirs. So they're not worried about him getting cooked by A.J. Brown last year or DJ Moore or any of the games where he was just destroyed. That's not them. They didn't teach him those techniques. They didn't put him in those positions. So for them, that's not something that they're concerned about. They shouldn't be, and which is why I said they shouldn't be overreacting to one game. And a lot of what I saw from the secondary, the coverage bust, the easy touchdowns, the pass interference, the penalties, the things, a lot of it came off of either they played too far off, which they cleaned a lot of that up later on in the game. They started to press as the game wore on. Guys started to come up and delete the airspace. Or it was miscommunication, right? They blew coverage. They didn't communicate. They didn't talk. This guy thinks he got this guy. They're covering the same dude, and now somebody's running wide open, right? These are things that are teachable moments. That's a part of Tell the Truth Monday. You clean those things up. You continue to rep it, right? And I'm not telling you that there won't be any coverage bust in week 2 versus the Giants or week 3 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. But by the time we get to week 6, week 7, there shouldn't be any coverage bust because the communication, again, understand that this is week 1 of year 1 of a recalibration. Everything is new. The one thing Eric Bieniemy used to say last year that stuck with me, out of all the nonsensical things he would say, the one thing that actually felt accurate and real was he said, with Sam Howell in particular, keep in mind a lot of times when he sees something, it's the first time he's seen it, okay? When it's young, fresh, and new, as it is with this team, understand that a lot of times they're seeing everything for the first time. Even if they saw it on film and they prepared for it, in a game, it's different. And you're seeing it for the first time, and so you're reacting to it for the first time. And so mistakes will be made. Mistakes will be made. But eventually, those mistakes will be cleaned up. And I'm going to say this. This defense is going to go as far as the front takes them. But this defense is only going to be as good as the secondary allows them to be, if that makes sense. So we can be a top 12 defense in the NFL, and if that happens, it's because of the defensive front. They're getting pressure, they're creating turnovers, they're leading to the secondary having turnover opportunities because they rushed the quarterback rushed the throw because of pressure, or they hit the quarterback as he was throwing the football. It's a wobbly duck that goes in the air and it's picked off, those sort of things. But if you want to be able to contend against teams like Cincinnati who have receivers that can hurt you, or you want to compete against the Cowboys or the Eagles who have stellar receiving cores, or in the case of the Eagles, not necessarily the Cowboys, you want to compete against those, the cornerbacks, the secondary are going to be what allows us to be able to do that. Because you can have the 12th rated defense in the league beating up on the teams that don't have those type of receivers and aren't as good offensively. We've seen that here with Jack Del Rio. The years where we take advantage of, the lesser quarterbacks, the Ryan Finleys and what was the guy that played for the 49ers that year in 2020? Oh, man. Shucks. But you know what I'm talking about. Like, we took advantage of a lot of bad quarterbacks in 2020, right? If we want to compete against the better teams, the better offenses, the corners are going to have to play better. And the secondaries as a whole, not just the corners, the safeties as well, are going to have to communicate, and they're going to have to play better together as a unit on the back end, right? But overall, it wasn't as bad as I thought. Like, I see promise, and I'm sticking to my guns, right? I'm sticking to my guns. Nick Mullins, thank you, Door Gunner. Nick Mullins was the quarterback of the 49ers that year. Trash, right? Took advantage of him. And all the other trash quarterbacks that we saw in 2020. Took advantage of those guys. Doesn't mean we were a good defense. We just took advantage of bad quarterbacks. I'm sticking to my guns. This defense is going to be good this season. Shoot me. Okay? Bang, bang. Shoot me. You're going to tell me I'm crazy? I'm here for all of it. I want all of the smoke. Matter of fact, I'm bypassing the smoke and I'm going straight to the flames. Smoke is nothing. Get that out of here. I'm going by the smoke straight to the fire. That's how convicted I am that the defense is going to be good this season. May take a little while, much like the offense. I think the offense is actually going to be good this year too. I'm excited. This is going to be a fun offense to watch. I haven't said that word in that sentence with this team in quite some time. You got to go back a ways, probably to 2016, maybe the early stages of 17, Kirk's last season, when is the last time I used the word fun offense in reference to the Commanders or then Redskins. It's been a while, but I think this offense is going to be fun to watch. So anyway, I digress. Let's now turn our attention. Let's turn the page. We just put a nice, pretty bow on the Buccaneers' performance. Now let's turn our attention to the New York Football Giants. And let's start by going in other news. So we'll recap the press conferences of both head coach Dan Quinn, quarterback Jayden Daniels. We will also start the process. We're giving away tickets this week. If you're a member of the mob, we're giving away 2 tickets to the home opener. Did you know that gold pants alert? We're wearing the gold pants on Sunday. Did you know we're wearing the gold pants for the first time at Northwest Stadium? We have to win at Northwest Stadium in the first game of Northwest Stadium, right? It's no longer FedEx Field. Maybe, just maybe, we can create a winning environment with a new name. That's the hope. One can dream, right? Let's do it. So, with that said, let's first take a look at the injury report, as we like to do here on Commanders Nightly News, to get us started, see what the week is kind of feeling like, and then we'll go from there, talk about what DQ had to say. Very long presser today, 26 minutes and some change. And we'll talk about what Jayden Daniels had to say, and then we will start that process of giving away the 2 tickets to the home game, and then we will move forward from there, take our first look at the Giants, so forth and so forth. So let's get to the injury reports. We start with the good guys, right? First 2 names on the list are interesting. Zach Ertz, not injured at all in any capacity. He's just old. So he's getting some rest. Good for the old guy, right? Johnny Newton. This one is more interesting. His foot, he's getting rest. So DQ explained this during the press conference, and he said that this was by design. There's nothing wrong. There's no setbacks or anything. So this is all about them giving him a chance to prepare himself, because they're going to they worked him out hard yesterday, Tuesday, right? Any injured players get treatments, on Monday, Tuesday, and then you get ready for, Wednesday, et cetera, et cetera. So they worked him out from a cardiovascular standpoint really hard on Tuesday. So they wanted to give him a rest on Wednesday, and they said they really wanted to give him a chance to prepare himself for the padded practice that they're going to have on Thursday. They really want to put him through the rigorous nature of the padded practice, see how his foot responds, see how he feels on Friday, and then they will make a determination as to how they feel about the prospects of him playing on Sunday. Keep in mind, unlike last week where there was a travel day and all of that stuff, he's going to be home the entire week. I think he's trending towards playing in this game. Now, again, I don't think it'll be very much like Brandon Coleman only played 14 snaps or so. I think it'll be something like that, but it'll be good to just see number 95 out there, okay? I think he's going to play this week, but fingers crossed, tomorrow is going to be a big day in going a long way in determining that, okay? Tyler Owens, limited. I guess he had an ankle injury sustained on Sunday. Everybody else is full. Brandon Coleman, Emmanuel Forbes Jr. with the thumb. We talked about that already. Brian Robinson Jr. knee, and Trent Scott knee. All full participants, all good news. Hopefully it stays that way. We'll keep our eyes on Brian Robinson Jr. in particular, because he was not on the injury report last week. And so I just want to keep my eye on him, make sure that we don't go to a limited or out, because that would be somewhat a telltale sign that something's not right. So if he remains full, hopefully he falls off the injury report by the time we get to Friday, right? Or if he's up here the entire week, we get to the status and there's no game status because he's fine. And that's what I ultimately think it's going to be. But we will see. Right. So that's the injury report for the good guys. Now let's get to the G-men and the ops. DB Nick McLeod, who has been a pest in our side the past couple of years, has a knee injury, did not practice Wednesday. I'm always a bit skeptical of Wednesday DNPs because I told you Wednesday is the install day. It's the day that if you're not going to practice, you don't practice. Thursday is the day where if you don't practice on Thursday, SpaghettiOs might not play in the game. I told you that last week with Logan Hall. He didn't play in the game. Like Thursday is the day, and that's the day I always tell you. Wednesday, not so much. So all these DNPs don't worry me. Don't bother me. Don't get me excited. Darius Muasau out with a knee. Gunnar Olszewski, he's a really good punt returner, by the way. Got a groin, didn't practice. If he's out, that's good for us. And same with Darius Slayton. He's seems to always be open against us for whatever reason, right? Concussion, that's in a week one, that tells me that he's probably not going to play in this game. You don't usually come back from a concussion a week later. Now, concussions vary, but the likelihood is you don't come back until the following week after a concussion. So my guess is he'll be out of this game. Michael McFadden, who played really well for the Giants last year at the linebacker position, has a groin, but he practiced in full. So more likely than not, he will be a part of the festivities on Sunday. We'll keep a very watchful eye on this injury report moving forward. So let's get to what was said by DQ and Jayden Daniels. We'll start with DQ first. DQ talked about 9/11. He started out his presser by talking about 9/11, and most of the players, as he mentioned on the team, are too young to even remember 9/11. Jayden Daniels was barely 1 year old when 9/11 happened. So someone like myself, who's a little bit older, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was in the hallway, and the teacher at the end of the hall, she was a science teacher, ran into the hallway and said, "Oh my God, a plane just crashed into the World Trade Center." And those were back in the days with the rolling TVs, right? You had a TV on a cart, you'd roll it into your classroom and they plug it into the wall. And, we had VHS and things of that nature in those days. And so we also had the TVs mounted. There was a stand. TVs were catty cornered, mounted in the corners of the classroom. And so you watched like the morning news or the morning announcements on that and stuff like that. And so she turned on the television and we just watched the coverage for this was homeroom, right? Went into homeroom. It happened right around homeroom. And we sat there and we watched it, and it was incredible. Like disbelief at what we were seeing. Like I was at the age where it was kind of hard to kind of fathom what was transpiring. I'm in high school at this point, and you're seeing these things happen. And I didn't know the ramifications. I just knew this is a terroristic attack on American soil. And I did not know how it was going to change the way we lived and how we operated moving forward, right? It was one of the most jarring days in American history recently, right? Never will be forgotten. 23 years later, it's still an indelible image in my mind and a mark that will never leave. So Quinn talked about that. And you know what is really crazy is today's Dan Quinn's birthday. So not only is it his birthday, but it's a day that will go down in infamy in U.S. history. And the two for him are tied together. It's his birthday and it's one of the most infamous days in U.S. history, especially in the 21st century. So that's crazy to me. So he recanted, 9/11 for himself, where he was. It was his first year in the NFL. So it was another milestone marker for him. And he talked about how he addressed that with the players, et cetera, et cetera. And then they got to football, talk. So he talked about the game and, kind of making sure that they got to the the bottom of a lot of the issues, discussed them. He said, look, you don't have to be a jerk to correct someone, to tell someone that they did something wrong and here's how you need to do it. But you do have to tell them that they didn't do it correctly and this is how you do it, right? And you know what? I this wasn't an epiphany, but I had one of those moments where DQ, and I don't remember what question it was in particular. Oh, I remember. So one of the reporters quoted DQ from Monday's presser where he talked about before success comes the struggle. And, the reporter didn't want to say that they struggled. He was trying to find a nice way. And DQ cut him off and was like, no, we struggled. Yeah, no, Sunday was a struggle. Right. And I remember saying at that moment, I said, man, I love DQ because he's honest. He's sharp, but he's also very forthcoming. And I know if he's this forthcoming with the media, he's the exact same way with his players. And one of the things you hear players say all the time is we just want to know where we stand. And DQ's not going to sugarcoat. And I remember Joe Witt Jr. saying something that stuck with me last week. He says, so many people think because DQ's such a good guy. And I don't think anybody that has watched his press conferences and the way he handles the media walks away saying anything, but this guy is so genuine and he's just a good dude. He's so likable. Like, DQ's the kind of guy that you say, I want him to be my next door neighbor. Like, he's the kind of guy that if you've got an old grandma that lives next to it, he's going to cut your grass for you, right? Like, that's the kind of dude, DQ. He's just a good dude, right? I'll cut my grass and I'll cut yours because you're 76 years old. He's just somebody that just good vibes all the time. I love being around people like that. Just good vibes, good energy all the time. But don't mistake that for a guy that isn't all about business, that isn't going to tell you when you're wrong and isn't going to demand perfection and going to strive for that. And, DQ's like, no, you don't have to be an asshole to tell somebody that they did something wrong, but you do have to tell them they did something wrong. This is why I'm telling you guys, the shit's going to get fixed. So many of you overreact because you're still stuck with the PTSD of the Rivera era, the Gruden era, and, to a lesser degree, the Shanahan era and all this shit that we've dealt with, this, the Zorn era going back a ways. And yes, it's hard to overcome PTSD when you've been traumatized for as long as we have. But I'm telling you, this is different. And I've been saying this, and you know what I'm about to say? I'm going to say it anyway. It feels different because it is different. And one of the reasons I believe it is different is because of Adam Peters and Dan Quinn. I know a lot of you have been talking about how pissed off, Adam Peters was after the game. I told you guys that Dan Quinn was visibly pissed off. You could tell it. He was pissed off. That's what you want. That was the problem. That was one of the things that was missing here. Dan Snyder would be pissed off, but he'd be pissed off for all the wrong reasons, right? And Bruce Allen really didn't care. As long as we were making money, the organization was making money, people were showing up, didn't care what color jerseys the fans had on. As long as the seats were being filled with butts and people were paying for concession and parking, they didn't give a shit. This group cares. And DQ talked about, look, man, the players care too. He said, one of the things I really enjoyed this week was coming into the building on Tuesday, which is the players' day off, and walking in and seeing guys in meeting rooms, studying, having meetings. We didn't tell them to do that. They did that on their own, right? Guys putting in extra work, extra film study. That's players going the extra mile, taking the initiative to try to get this thing fixed. That's what you want, right? He talked about Jayden Daniels and, his continued growth. They saw a lot of things that they liked. He's going to continue to grow. And he talked about something that I've been talking about for months with Jayden Daniels. And this goes all the way back to the draft process. And he said, with Jayden, what they want to see from him a little bit more of is extending the play to be a passer. And I talked about that on the film study yesterday. I talked about that immediately after the game. I talked about that was something that was missing from the LSU tape. And I said, that's not who he was in college. And until he changes that narrative at the NFL level, I'm going to continue to assume that's just not who he is as a player. And they want him to extend the play to be a passer, not always a runner. The minute he tucks the football, look at the way he holds it. You can tell when a guy is still looking to throw. When you break the pocket and you still got the ball just in your passing hand and your eyes are up and you're still looking down the field, you're still looking to extend as a passer. Jayden Daniels, when he breaks contain, when he breaks the pocket, that ball is in two hands and it's about to be tucked under his right arm and he's turning into a runner. His head is down and he's looking for running space. He's not looking to throw the football. And I showed an example of Terry, breaking away from a defender who fell down, and Jayden Daniels could have thrown Terry the football and it might have been a touchdown, but he could care less about somebody being open down the field at that point. He's looking to run. And I don't know if that's something that you can rewire in a quarterback's brain and change that, or if that's something that is just innate. I guess we're going to find out. This is going to be a case study that is going to be interesting to me because from what I've seen through my years of watching football, that's not usually something that you teach a guy to do. Either you do that or you don't. But we'll see if they can maybe get him to be a little bit more comfortable doing that moving forward. So what I don't want the media to do, because I felt like they did that along with the staff last year to Sam, was make Sam gun shy. I don't want them, because people, so many people, especially forgot the guy that works for the news station, but every time he asks a question, he's asked about Jayden's rushing attempts. He asked about Jayden getting hit in the preseason, and he's always concerned about Jayden getting hit. And I'm like, dude, you never played sports at all. He probably never played sports. He was always a pretty boy, always wanted to be on television or some shit, because he doesn't want anybody to take any contact. This is a contact sport. You can't run away from contact. 16 carries, is it a bit much? Yeah, it is. But guess what? That's life. It's football. Who gives a shit? I'm not complaining because he ran it 16 times. I'm complaining because of the 16 times he ran it, 5 or 6 of them, he could have thrown it instead. Okay? And that's what the staff is essentially saying. I don't want him to stop running. If he feels pressure or he needs to get it, don't hesitate for 1 second. Don't throw the football away or none of that shit. If you can turn the corner and get 2 yards on first down instead of throwing it away, you can make it 2nd and 8. Don't listen to these idiots that, he's running the football too much. 16 carries is a lot of carries. Be you. I said that last year to Sam Howell, and somewhere along the way, he stopped being himself. Don't stop being you, Jayden Daniels. And I think Dan Quinn is going to continue to preach to him. Hey, look, no, we drafted you because you have the ability to change the game with your legs. Don't stop doing that. He talked about Luke McCaffrey and the receiving core and the addition of Noah Brown. And he said that there's a chance that he could play this week, similar to what they're doing with Johnny Newton. They really want to kind of slow roll him into the mix. They're going to try to ramp him up this week in terms of what they feed him from a playbook standpoint, cardio wise, get him, up to speed, and see if they can't, again, much like with, Brandon Coleman last week, 13, 14 snaps, see if they can't integrate him into the mix. Excuse me. The one advantage they have with Noah Brown is that Dan Quinn was with Noah Brown the last, 2 out of the last 3 years in Dallas. So he's like, I'm very familiar with the football player Noah Brown and what he brings to the table. So I think there's another added element that, because I watched some of those wide receiver screens that we threw, and you throw that wide receiver screen with Noah Brown blocking, and it's a different animal, right? I saw guys get beat on some of those blocks and tackles get made because, blocks weren't, sustained on the outside on those wide receiver screens. Noah Brown's out there, that block's getting made, right? So bigger body too, bigger, radius, catch radius, all that good stuff. Noah Brown can run too. He's not a slow guy. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. You know what was interesting? DQ mentioned the receivers, talked about Terry. He talked about Austin Eckler and how he's, a drop step, how he catches the ball, kind of moving up the field and the ability to, make things happen. And he's talking about him being a pro's pro, same with Terry. Then he went and extended that conversation to not only Terry, but Luke and OZ. He did not mention Diami. and I'm big on and I get it. I don't want him to have the Jay Gruden syndrome where you mention one running back and you feel the need to mention every running back on the roster, including the guys on the practice squad. I'm not asking him to do that, but it just makes me feel like Dyami Brown isn't going to be a big part. And Noah Brown being here doesn't bode well for Dyami Brown either, just in case you were wondering. His presence here means Dyami Brown gets pushed further down the depth chart because as we saw in the game now, Dyami Brown, third most snaps of any receiver. So it's not like he's not getting on the field, but there was no concerted effort to get him a target at all. Like I didn't even see a play where I said, oh, Dyami looked like the primary read here or he was open. Like Dyami was he literally was running cardio in the game. So I don't know if he'll be a factor this season or not. And we'll see. Time will tell, right? Ultimately, time will tell. He talked about the defense, and a question was asked of him about Forbes. We'll get to that in a second. But the defensive line and the pressure that they applied but didn't get the quarterback on the ground. And he said, look, there's still teachable moments in that, whether it's, hey, we got to have a gang mentality. One guy misses, somebody cleans him up, or, somebody didn't have proper leverage to keep him in the pocket so that he couldn't escape so that the rest of the cavalry could arrive, but there's teachable moments. And he said the good thing about an individual play is that, hey, you might have did everything right on the play, but one guy didn't. And so that's his lesson to learn, not yours, right? And so like the Benjamin St. Juste first touchdown he gave up to Mike Evans, Deron Payne gets pressure on that play. Immediate pressure, but I won't call it an immediate win because Juice was in great coverage. He just didn't look, and it was an excellent throw. You couldn't have walked up and handed that ball to Mike Evans any better. And the play happened so quick. Baker, it was decisive. Payne's pressure didn't matter. And Juice had bad technique, right? Didn't look back for the football. End result, didn't necessarily play through the hands. End result is a catch, right? For a touchdown. So that's Juice's lesson to learn, not Payne's, right? But on Payne's, potential sack down in the red zone or potential sack opportunity in the red zone, that is Payne's lesson. Like you gotta get there, you gotta break down, you gotta find a way to get him on the ground. And so he's like, there's lessons to be learned in all of this. But he was pleased with what he saw from those guys. But you got to, that's half the battle is getting there. You got to get them on the ground. You don't get a gold star for completing half of the task. You got to get it done. He talked about Forbes, and I mentioned this earlier, but I'll reiterate it. They're not benching Forbes, and I don't think they should as a staff. Like I said, I'm emotional. I watched last year. I don't think that he's, very good right now. But again, their job is to continue to work with him. And I don't think they should give up on him yet. As a fan, I've seen enough, but they shouldn't. Like I said, they don't care about last year. So they haven't seen enough. So for them, it was just 1 week of, and I told you, he didn't play that poorly. He really, truly didn't. If you go back and watch the game, he wasn't as bad as it felt. That pass interference was egregious. It was bad. And I know they weren't happy about that. But again, that's a teachable moment for him, right? He's no different than Benjamin St. Juste giving up the touchdown. It's no different than Mike Sainristil getting worked over in the slot by Chris Godwin. Everybody had lessons to learn in this game. Nobody was perfect. Either side of the football. So they're going to continue to work with him. I think he's going to be starting out there against the Giants. He'll have a splint on his thumb. And we'll see if that, you know, prohibits him from being a guy that can take it away. I mean, shit, he wasn't taking it away anyway, but see if that stops him from being able to do that at a high clip. But DQ also talked about how you attack, you know, the weak. He was asked about the way they go about their business. I thought it was a really interesting conversation as he described how they attack the weak and how they set things up. And then I thought this was an interesting answer, and then we'll go to Jayden. He talked about how you have to self-scout. I thought this was one of the weaknesses of the last group, is that they didn't do a good enough job of self-scouting. Only time Ron Rivera would talk about self-scouting was when we would get to the bye week. He literally would say, you know, during the bye week, you self-scout. And Dan Quinn said, no, you self-scout every week. You know, there are things that you did well. There's things that you didn't do well. You don't think the other team is scouting you? So you have to self-scout to find out the things you didn't do well. Like for me, when I hear DQ talk about this, and he literally said, you got to work on the things that you didn't do well the week prior, because even if the team didn't show it the week before that you're playing against, don't think that they won't implement that or that they don't have that in their bag of tricks to use if they see that you can't cover it. And the first thing I thought about was, he didn't want to say it, but the first thing I thought about was those bunch sets, right? Anytime they got into trips, they motioned to trips, or they got into a bunch set and they ran some sort of concept of a clear out, a corner, an underneath route. They ran a high-low concept, or they ran somebody on a corner route. We struggled with the corner route. You would have thought we never seen a corner route. Mike Evans had a wide open corner route for a touchdown. Baker Mayfield didn't see him. The touchdown to the rookie from Washington was on a corner route. We had the wheel route up the sideline that was wide open out of a bunch. A lot of those things came out of trips or some form of a bunch, and we didn't handle it well. You know, high-low concepts, we were confused. Two guys guarding one, somebody running free. You don't think the Giants are going to implement that? You don't think they're going to put in some form of high-low concepts and reads and corner routes because we struggled with it all day on Sunday? You're damn right they're going to put that in. So I think DQ is fully aware of that. And I think he's thinking about it from a defensive coordinator standpoint. Like, what would I do, right? How would I attack if I knew that a team had a weakness, right? So I think they're going to clean that up. To what extent, we'll see. Because the Giants have, unlike years past where the Giants had Isaiah Hodgins and, you know, basic receivers that weren't really going to hurt you vertically. You make a mistake, and they always had Darius Slayton, but they got Malik Neighbors now. You know, you make one of those busts in coverage and Neighbors gets loose, you're not catching him. That's a 67-yard touchdown. Like you can't give those up to the Giants. You got to make them earn it, because it's Daniel Jones at quarterback. Any given snap could be the one where he decides to be special. When he decides to be Daniel Jones, right? It could be after a 24-yard gain, the next snap, he could decide to be Daniel Jones. Fumble, pick six, whatever, right? Interception, bad decision. You got to make him snap it as many times as possible, because the next snap could be the snap where he decides to be himself, right? When he does something good, it's an out-of-body experience. We need to make him just be himself. Just be Daniel Jones. Too many times when he plays against us, he has an out-of-body experience where he actually thinks he's a good quarterback. We need him to feel like how he normally feels against everybody else, which is Daniel Jones. So Jayden Daniels, he talked about Luke McCaffrey and how he sees the field. He was a former quarterback, and he said, you know, we kind of see the field the same. So it's really good playing with a player who kind of sees things the way that I see it, knows where to sit down, knows how to make himself available, understands the tempo and the rhythm of where he should be in the process of a play, things of that nature. He talked about Noah Brown and, you know, how they're trying to work him in, and, you know, it's a process, obviously, and they're going to continue to see what he can bring to the table. He talked about his relationship with Malik Neighbors and how they talked on the phone yesterday, but he said, hey, probably won't be talking too many more times during the course of the week. He said, we may speak pregame, maybe not. They're going to talk postgame, no doubt about that. It's probably swap jerseys is my guess. But, you know, he's like, that's my guy. That's my brother. but we ain't brothers right now. During the course of this week, we going after it. So he's like, we shared our experiences from our first NFL game, and then that was pretty much it. And then he talked about some of the things he learned in his first career NFL start, and he's like, the game actually slowed down for him. So that was positive to hear, because normally with young quarterbacks, it takes them a little while to get to where the game slows down. And I think the game was moving quick for him early on, but the thing that he never lost sight of or confidence in was his legs. And as long as those remain a threat, he's going to be a problem for defenses. And I think that's going to help neutralize the rush. Like, you can't be willy-nilly on your rush against Jayden Daniels, because if he takes off, especially if you're in man coverage, you're screwed, right? So I really think that there's an opportunity for him this week in particular, because the Giants, Shane Bowen isn't a heavy blitz defensive coordinator, which is why Sam Darnold ate them up. If they don't get rushed with 4 guys, which is what he likes to do, which is what he did in Tennessee, and they were able to get pressure with 4, if they don't get pressure with 4 guys, you're going to be able to take advantage of a Giant secondary that's not great. And so it's going to be the offensive line's job to protect this week, because, yes, the Giants do have guys that can get there, but this is going to be a different look. They're not going to blitz as much. So I think this is a chance for Jayden to really stand in there and deliver the football, have some opportunities to make some plays with his arm. But make no mistake about it, if the rush gets there, he's got a chance to make something happen with his legs too. So he talked about Austin Eckler and what he provides, and the calming force, the steady impact that he has. And he talked about his performance in the game and some of the things that he wants back, because they had asked about some of the plays that others might have wanted back, and he said, well, Luke didn't throw me that football. He might want that play back, but hell, I want the play back to Terry. You can't miss that one. I did. And so I'm pretty sure everybody has a play or two in the game that they want back. So we just rep those things. We continue to get better, and try to be better the next time that opportunity is presented to us, and we take advantage. He strikes me as someone that, and they asked him about, why, him playing the game with such excitement and, jubilation and kind of this carefree attitude. He's like, don't get it twisted. I'm a competitor. I'm not going to be the, rah-rah guy talking trash a lot of times. But you get on the field, in the course of a game, and I want to win. And I'm going to do anything in my power to try to help my team win. And that includes running the football, putting my body on the, line. I'm going to do that too. So I think we're going to win a lot of games with Jayden Daniels at quarterback, man. Like I said earlier, I haven't been this excited about a offense here in Washington in a while. Normally, I'm more comfortable when the offense has the ball, but it's not exciting. But it's more comforting knowing that the other team shouldn't be able to score. Last year, that wasn't the case because we threw so many pick sixes. Sam threw so many pick sixes that being on offense was just as lethal as being on defense at times. But this year, I'm actually anxious to get on offense. In past years, I wasn't necessarily anxious to get on offense as much as I just didn't want to be on defense because our defense sucked. So if we could just get a stop, get the ball to the offense, the other team can't score. It wasn't about, hey, the offense has the ball, they can go score. It was just, hey, let's keep the ball away from the other team's offense so they can't score, right? Now I'm like, hey, no, we can go get some points. Think about this. All right, just think about this, and then we'll move on to the ticket giveaway and start that process. Think about it this way. Go back to the preseason. 1 drive against the Jets, scoring drive. 2 drives against the Dolphins, 2 scoring opportunities, a missed field goal, a made field goal, right? Didn't play in the third preseason game. You go to the Bucs game. What did we have? 6 drives? I'm gonna look it up. I think we had 6 drives in that game. If not 6, 7. Okay. And then when you think about it in this context, you're gonna go, I didn't think about it that way, but hell yes, right? So in week 1, we had we had 9 drives. Didn't feel like we had that many drives. We had 9 drives. Okay. We missed a field goal. We missed another field goal. We scored a touchdown. We scored another touchdown. We scored another touchdown, right? We scored 3 touchdowns in the game. 1 by Brian Robinson, 2 by Jayden Daniels, right? So, and then I don't think we scored on the opening possession of the third quarter. Maybe we did. Maybe that was a field goal drive. Kind of feel like we didn't score because it was never 16-10. So we didn't score on the opening possession, and Terry had a chance at the touchdown, right? That was the first pass of the third quarter was Terry on the goal ball, and we missed. And I think we ultimately punted. So of the 9 drives, 6 of them, there were scoring opportunities. And okay, remove the Terry. That was a miss. 5 of them either resulted in scoring opportunities where you attempted field goals and you missed, or you scored touchdowns. Think about that. 9 drives, 5 of them you had chances to score. 6 of them, if you hit Terry, that's a 6th drive. And I'm not sure if, I think that was the possession, the one where he took the sack, the fumble. Luke got it back on the receiver screen where he's supposed to throw it back to Jayden. That ended up being the long missed field goal. So that was one of the drives where we had a scoring drive. So 9 possessions, 5 of them resulted in scoring opportunities, and there was a 6th opportunity that was there with the Terry miss. This offense has a chance to be good, is what I'm trying to explain to you, right? We had 3 possessions with the first team offense, all 3 in the preseason were scoring opportunities. So of the season thus far, if you count preseason, 12 total drives, 8 of them resulted in scoring opportunities. Now, if you want to remove the preseason because we weren't playing against first team defenses, fine. 5 out of 9 in week 1. That's a pretty damn good rate, if I may say so myself. From a team that couldn't scratch across 17 a week, 18 barely. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Anyway, so let's give away some tickets this week, shall we? First game of the season, gold pants alert. We're wearing the gold pants for the first time since 2019. And it's the first game of the season at home. It's Jayden Daniels' first game of his NFL career at home. And it's the first game of Northwest Stadium, NDub Stadium. A lot of firsts, and we need a win. And so I'm sending reinforcements. 2 members of the MOBB are going to be in the building, courtesy of yours truly. And I'm doing my part to put good guys' asses in seats so I can complain about us not having enough fans there if the number is not to my liking, right? On television. If the visual doesn't meet up with my expectation, I can complain because I did my part. Even though I wasn't there personally, I bought 2 tickets and I sent 2 Commanders fans to the game. So here's what I need from you if you're a member of the mob and you want to win these 2 tickets. Simply use the hashtag non-rival. Okay? Non-rival. NONRIVAL. Non-rival. The Giants are not our rival according to Kayvon Thibodeau, right? According to Kayvon Thibodeau, Commanders aren't a rival. We'll get into that here in a second. But that's the mantra for the week. Non-rival. Hashtag non-rival. You don't have to put it in caps. All lowercase. Hashtag non-rival if you want the tickets. We will have a drawing for the tickets. Being that this is the live show, we won't have another live show prior to the game, but I'll figure out how we're going to do the drawing, because I think Miss Perry said that you guys wanted it to be done a certain way. So I need to revisit that because I got to give the people what they want. Okay. So we'll figure it out. But non-rival, not in the comment section here in the live. After this video posts, okay, go into the comment section and use the hashtag non-rival. Okay. Non-rival. Make sure you use the hashtag. If you don't use the hashtag, you're not going to show up in the drawing. Okay. Use the hashtag non-rival. Not here in the comment section, but after the video has concluded, you can go in the comment section and comment, use the hashtag non-rival. So doesn't matter how you do it though. All caps, no caps, it'll all show up. So just make sure you spell it right. Okay. All right. So with that said, let's now move on and take our first look at the New York Football Giants, the G-Men. And I want to start with Kayvon Thibodeau's comment about us not being the rival of the Giants. So here's the first thing that I'll say about this. We are, in fact, rivals with the Giants, contrary to what Kayvon Thibodeau thinks. Now, I'm not here to force rivalry on to someone. If he doesn't view us as a rival, because since he's gotten there, this is year 3 for him. In the 2 years he's been in New York, he has not lost to the Commanders. He's tied the Commanders once and beat us 3 times. So in his mind's eye, we stink, right? There's no rivalry here. We beat them every time we see them. I don't worry about them. I don't care about them. I would assume someone like him, he's a cocky, arrogant son of a bitch for somebody who's average as hell, right? He's basic too, right? I hope he doesn't get anywhere near Jayden Daniels because he's not good. But every time he sees us, he plays well, so he thinks he's hot shit. But he's garbage, right? So I'll tell you this much. He's equivalent to Chase Young. I'll just say that. But he's had more production than Chase Young. So it is what it is. But he's not going to ultimately equal out to the draft status that he had. I'll just say that. But that's nor here nor there. The bottom line is, I'm not here to force a rivalry on someone that doesn't feel like it's a rivalry. But someone like him probably thinks he's a rival of the Eagles or the Cowboys. They get destroyed by those two teams regularly. On an annual basis, the Cowboys beat these guys by 40 points every time they see them. That's no rivalry, but I bet he thinks that they're the rival. The Cowboys don't see them as a rival. But if you're in the division, it's a rivalry whether you want it to be or not. At the end of the day, I don't force rivalry on people who don't think it's a rivalry. As a fan of the Duke Blue Devils in college basketball and Maryland wanting to be our top rival when our top rival has always been and always will be North Carolina, you can't force a rivalry on someone. So if that's how he feels, cool. Yeah, I don't give a shit what Kayvon Thibodeau thinks. At the end of the day, I just want to beat the Giants. Him saying this isn't going to make me have more disdain for the Giants. I don't have any issues with the Giants. I never have, and I don't know if I ever will. The only thing I don't like about the Giants is their owner. I can't stand John Mara. Other than that, I don't have any problems with. I love the fact that Saquon Barkley went to the Eagles and he couldn't stand it, and he said he was going to have a tough time sleeping, and then watching Saquon do what he did on Friday night was beautiful because I hope he tossed and turned and woke up in cold sweats. Other than that, I don't have any disdain for the Giants as a whole, just their owner. So I just want to beat the Giants. They're in the division. We play them twice. They're on the schedule. Beat them. I have more disdain for the Eagles and Cowboys than I do the Giants. When the Giants won the Super Bowl in 07 and 11, I was happy. I didn't care. When the Eagles won, I vomited and I mourned for 2 weeks in 2016 or 2017. Whenever the hell it was, 2017. I mourned. I didn't want them to win shit. So it's different. He doesn't think we're a rival. Fine. Beat his ass. Make him respect us. I don't blame him for not respecting us. We haven't beaten yet. That's fine. I'm not tripping about it. Here's what I do know. Here's the facts, okay? The Giants, since he's come into the league, have either beaten us or tied each of the last 2 years, right? 3 wins, 1 tie. So he hasn't tasted defeat against us. Here's also a fact. The Giants were the worst team in the NFL in week 1. And I'm not just saying that because I don't like the Giants. The Giants were the only team in week 1 to not score in the double digits. Every team in the league except the Giants scored at least 10 points or more. The Giants only scored 6. Okay? The Giants were beaten soundly and handily at home with their 100th anniversary, with all of the legends and the greatest players in franchise history in attendance. Carl Banks, Harry Carson, Lawrence Taylor, Phil Simms, all of the guys, Eli Manning, they were all there to watch the Giants vomit all over themselves in those hideous 100-year anniversary jerseys. They stink. And the main culprit is the guy that you're looking at on the screen right now, Daniel Jones. Somehow, some way, when we play the Giants, this guy manages to play his best brand of football, and it just pisses me off to no end. Because the one thing Giants fans can always hold over our heads is, you shut up. You can't beat us. And every time Daniel Jones sees you, he has a career day. What am I supposed to say? Nothing. I can't say anything. I'm sick of it. Even Giants fans want us to put them out of their misery because they're sick of Daniel Jones. So let's help them. And I said this on the show the other day. I think it might have been yesterday. If it wasn't yesterday, it was Monday. I said, if we're going to talk about it more later on in the week, here we are, right? We've turned the page to the Giants. Now is as good a time as any to talk about it. There's no more excuses for not beating the Giants. In previous years, the last 2 years in particular, I've been able to justify the losses to the Giants by saying, look, first of all, I was the one that said we were going to bust their shit to the white meat show last year, right? Their heads, excuse me, pause. We were going to bust their heads to the white meat show. Like, I had no mercy for them, and I was looking to crush them last year. And then obviously what happened. You know, Eric Bieniemy happened. Who am I kidding? And so I had to eat that one. I had crow that I had to consume. And that's okay. Won't be the last. Once it wasn't the first, won't be the last. But this year, I'm not even talking a lot of shit, not talking a lot of trash, because I don't know what's going to happen. But here's what I do know. We're further along in our process than they are. Because until they get Daniel Jones from under center, they can't start their rebuilding process. They're stuck in neutral because he stinks and he's not going to get better. He is who he is, and they're stuck with him for one more season, right? And whether they win 3 games and get the number 1 pick in the draft, or win 5 games and get the number 6 pick in the draft, or win 7 games and end up with the 11th or 12th pick, I don't give a shit. I'm not trying to contribute to them, winning 7 games. Whereas last year, we were in competition with them for a quarterback. We needed to lose to them because it was either them or us who was going to get Jayden Daniels, Drake May, Caleb Williams. It was either them or us. And I didn't want it to be them before it was us. Okay? You can't, in this league, it's tough to lose in vain. Losing sucks. I hate losing with a passion. So if I'm going to lose, it better be with a purpose. Last year, it served a purpose. I don't want to do that shit anymore. We got our quarterback now. There is no more purpose for losing. We're now in the process of trying to win games and build a winning culture. The Giants can't start that process because the guy that's going to help them ultimately win games at the quarterback position in the future isn't on their roster right now. So I can't justify losing to the Giants this year by saying, well, I don't want the Giants to get a quarterback, so I need them to beat us, so they got a high draft pick. I don't give a shit about them getting a quarterback. Let them get the best quarterback in the draft this upcoming season for all I care. Let them win 2 games this year. They better not be against us. They better not be against us. Because where we are in our process is we need to start winning games. We need to start beating teams like the Giants. They stink. They're not a good football team. Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. Stop losing to teams that aren't good. The Buccaneers are good. You can justify, they're a better team than us. You can justify that loss. You cannot justify losing to the Giants at home with Daniel Jones at quarterback. And if things continue the way that they're going in Carolina, at home, later on in the season, with Bryce Young at quarterback, you can't justify losing to the Carolina Panthers if things continue going the way that they're going in Carolina. There are games that you need to win in this league if you want to start taking the steps necessary to becoming a better football team and building a winning culture. You have to beat the teams you're supposed to beat. And right now, the Giants look like a team that we are supposed to beat. Now, they pose threats and they pose problems that if we don't clean up some of the shit from week 1, they'll exploit it and they'll beat us again. And speaking of which, let's get into the odds, right? Let's get into the odds. Brought to you by BetUS. Looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. Again, who's doing that in the industry? All right, not many. And then BetUS has upped the ante for my viewers. It was 125%. It is now 150% sign-up bonus on up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits when you use the promo code YouTube150. Head over to betus.com. Use the promo code YouTube150. All right? So BetUS is trying to give you money. All right, and I know not all of you are gambling degenerates out there, okay? So some of this is not for you, but some of this is for everyone. This first line that we're going to look at is for everyone. Even if you're not a bettor, this is important because Vegas is telling you how they feel about the game, all right? And then we're going to get to some interesting prop bets that I think look, I gave you a winner last week. I said, they're giving away money with Zach Ertz. Take it. Now, you had to sweat it out till late. Last possession of the game, he catches a pass on the sideline, runs for 12 yards, and that put him over the 23.5 total. But it put him over the total, and he was always going to be over the total. It was free money. Take it. I think there are some opportunities here to win some big money this week, but we'll talk about that. But I said this. Look at the line in this game. Brought to you by BetUS, okay? The line right now is -1 for Washington on the spread. Okay, it's -1. They are telling you we don't know what the hell is going to happen in this game, and we don't trust either one of these teams, but we definitely don't trust Washington at home if you're just a -1, right? I mean, the Giants are +1, but they're saying, hey, the Giants can win this game. We don't trust Washington at all. The over-under total is 43. I think the over is achievable. I hope we go under because the Giants don't score very many points in this game. I hope we do to them what Minnesota did to them and stifle them, suffocate them, and hold them to, 6, 9, 10, 13 points while we score, 27 or 30, right? If we beat them 27-13, that's under the 43, and I'm happy about it. All right. But here's the thing. And now we're going to get into some interesting prop bets here. Brought to you once again by BetUS. So I'm trying to make you some money. BetUS want to bless you. So let them, right? Here, I want you to win some big money though. Because my thing is always put down $10, put down $100. Whatever you can afford. Always make sure you bet responsibly and bet what you can afford to lose. Okay. Don't bet your rent money. Don't do that. Okay. However, I'm a big proponent of, hey, if you believe in something, slap down $100. That's always my go-to. Slap down $100. Now, sometimes $100 isn't worth it. If it's plus, 110, you're only winning $110. I mean, I say only, but you just doubled your money, right? You just doubled your money if you win the bet. But I'm looking at something where it's along these lines, right? This is the first scoring play of the game. And this is easy money here. You put down $100 and the Commanders score a touchdown, you win $195. All the Commanders have to do is score a touchdown first. Doesn't matter how they do it. You win $100, right? Now, $195, excuse me. The Giants score first. You put down $100 on the Giants scoring first, touchdown first, $210. You win, right? Giants kick a field goal first as the first points of the game. You win $320. The Commanders kick a field goal first, which you know is more likely the scenario that one of these two teams kicks a field goal before they score a touchdown. You put down $100, you're going to win $340 if the Commanders kick a field goal as the first score of the game. Now, any other Giants score, any other Commander score, that's $5,000 now. Look, what they're essentially saying is there's a safety. Probably not going to happen, right? I'm not in the interest of losing money or throwing money away, okay? You want to put down $10 on, a safety? Sure, why not? You win, it's $500. You put 10 down, right? What's it going to hurt? But those are interesting props because you put down $100, right? And honestly, you could hedge. Put 100 down on the Giants scoring a touchdown, put 100 or a field goal, put 100 down on the Commanders kicking a field goal. Either way, you're going to make your money back, then some, right? I'm more along the lines of no risk it, no biscuit, okay? I'm not trying to have a hedge. I'm just going to put my money down on what I think is going to happen and hope that it works out for the best. That's an interesting one. Here's another interesting one. This one, I think, I would run to the nearest computer, go to betus.com, and I'd slap down $100 on this one here. First half scoring, plus 1,400 if it's tied. You don't think that this game could be 10-10 at halftime? You don't think this game could be 13-13 at halftime with these two teams? You don't think that's possible? You don't think it's worth it to slap down $100 to find out that you could win 1,400? That this game is tied? All the game has to do is be tied at halftime. That's it. Now, ties don't happen at halftime all the time, but against two evenly matched teams, again, how evenly matched are these two teams? I don't know. Because the next one that we're going to talk about, the next prop that we're going to talk about, may suggest that these two teams aren't evenly matched. We'll see. But for the sake of this argument, we've been evenly matched with the Giants for the last 3, 4, 5 years, right? Whatever it is. We always play them close. They always play us close. You don't see this potentially being a tie at halftime? You put down $100, you win $1,400. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. BetUS it's enticing. Again, I'm not saying. I'm just saying. And then this last bet, this last prop, brought to you by BetUS. Look at all the pluses. Look at all the pluses. Look at all the numbers. And these are big numbers, right? You don't want to see minuses. That's when it's hard to make money. You want to see pluses. That's when the money is just, they making it rain on you if you win, right? So if the Giants win by 1 to 6 points, you put down $100, you win $335. If the Commanders win by 1 to 6 points, you put down $100, you win $320. Right? That's the most likely outcome in this game, is that one of these two teams wins by less than a touchdown. So if you put money down on one or the other, you have a chance of tripling your money, essentially. But that's not the one that's got me excited. Here's the one as a Commanders fan that has me really excited. Go all the way down to the third prop bet for the Commanders. $3,099. All right. Commanders to win by 13 to 18 points. Plus 800. Now, I get it. Who in the hell have we beaten in the last 2 years by 2 scores, by 2 touchdowns? Touche. We haven't. I just told you we had a chance to score on 5 of 9 possessions, 6 if you count the Terry miss, right? 6 of 9 possessions versus the Bucs. We had a chance to score in all 3 possessions with the first team offense in the preseason. This offense can score. Right? Now we got to finish drives. We were 3 of 3 in the red zone. And with Jayden Daniels' legs, once we get close to the end zone between Brian Robinson and his tenacity and his unwillingness to quit getting to the goal line and Jayden Daniels' legs and the threat of him running, it's going to be tough. I told you the best red zone offenses are the ones that can run the football. It is easier to run the ball in than to throw it in the NFL. You keep it out of harm's way. It's easier on the ground. It's easier said than done. But when you have a quarterback like Jayden Daniels, it makes life so much easier because you have to defend him as a runner. We were 3 of 3 in the red zone because of Jayden Daniels' legs, and that is going to continue this season. Thus, we're going to score some points, folks. If we can stay out of our own way, avoid the penalties and the mistakes and the sacks and the things of that nature, we're going to convert because of his legs on 3rd and long. He's a threat to break it every time. 3rd and 8 is nothing with Jayden Daniels, as we saw against Tampa Bay. Drives can continue because he can run for 11 yards on 3rd and 8. On 3rd and 9, he can run for 14. We saw it firsthand. 3rd and 6, nothing anymore. We can beat the Giants by 14 points, 13 points is what I'm saying. I'm not telling you it's going to happen, but you put down $100, you win $800 if they win by 2 scores. They just lost by 22 points to the Vikings at home, 28-6. I get it. We stink. We can't beat the Giants until they do it. You can't bet. I get all of that. And if that's how you feel, don't put the money down. I'm just telling you. Now, all the rest of them seem far-fetched. Us winning by 19 to 24 points, $1,400. Yeah, that's not happening. We're not winning by 25 to 30 points. That'll get you 3,000 and so forth and so forth. Like, we're not that guy. We're not that team. Okay. But the one that's the most interesting, and hell, I'll even walk it back a step. Forget about all that. How about win by 7 to 12 points? How about we win the game by 9? How about we win the game by 8, 24-16? You don't think we can do that? You don't think we can beat the Giants by 8 points, 9 points? You don't think we can beat them 23-16? You don't think we can beat them 26-10 or 26-16? You don't think we can do that? I do. Again, and this is a big part of this discussion. We don't know what the hell our new kicker, Seibert, is going to do, right? We have no idea. If he's missing kicks, then all this shit that I'm talking goes out the window, right? But if he's making kicks and we're scoring points, I don't think the Giants can keep up. I don't. Because I think we're going to be in a position to score points throughout this game. You put down $100, you could win $475 if the Commanders win by a touchdown to 7 points to 12 points. Again, not as confident that that's going to happen. Put down 100 on them winning by 1 to 6 points. I really think the sweet spot is 7 to 12. But I'm greedy. I'm going for the gusto. I might put a little something down on 7 to 12, but I'm putting 100 down on 13 to 18 because I want the 800 because I think we can get it. But that's just me. Anyway, I digress. Let's get to social media maneuvers. I'm a midnight marauder. Y'all know what it is. Shout out to the mob. We in the building. Shout out to Patreon members and all of your support. Can't thank you guys enough. And I want to also give a special shout out to my guy, Fred Gams, who is a Patreon member for his support, generous donation that he provided me with on PayPal. So big shout out to Fred Gams. Thank you so much for your support. Anyway, let's get to the comment section. See what you guys have to say. and get this thing kicked off. We start with Austin Testerman. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Austin writes, Lou, let's kick some Giant ass this weekend. Yeah, I'm all for it. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of losing to the Giants. And there's no, like, we were incompetent last year. Like, the last 2 seasons, we were incompetent. You know, situationally in 2022 in that first game, we should have beat them. And situationally, we were incompetent. The second game, I don't think we were prepared well enough. We didn't come out on a Sunday night off of a bye prepared to go and beat a team that we were better than. We weren't prepared, right? We were incompetent. Last year, we were just totally incompetent on all fronts. We weren't prepared. We didn't prepare for the blitz. The game plan was awful and horrid. The staff was trash. We were incompetent. All phases, all the way around. That is not the case anymore. This is a good staff. I believe that wholeheartedly. This is a roster that you can win with, right? Or at least compete with. But against teams like the Giants, you should win against these types of teams. You should be able to compete against the Cincinnatis and the Baltimores and the Eagles and the Cowboys and the teams that we know are better than us. You should be able to compete with them, maybe beat them, and you should be able to beat the teams on the schedule like the Titans, like the Panthers, like the Giants that you are better than. And again, I say that not knowing that we're better than those teams. I feel that way. Doesn't mean it's right. But it's time that we start taking those steps. And, you know, so much was made of Adam Peters being pissed off after the game because you guys heard Lake Lewis talking about it on various programs. Here's what I'll say to that. There's no one that should be pissed off more than Adam Peters because there's nobody that's going to take more heat for this team's failure to succeed this year than Adam Peters. Not Dan Quinn, not Jayden Daniels, not Emmanuel Forbes. Adam Peters is the guy that people are going to look to if this team doesn't succeed because he put the roster together. Like my guy Derek B, the first thing he likes to talk about is all the extra money that we had to spend that we didn't spend because it was burning a hole in his pocket, and he just wanted to spend money just to spend money. Why didn't you go out and sign Mekhi Becton? He's starting at right guard for the Philadelphia Eagles because they didn't like Mekhi Becton. That's why. Mekhi Becton was a former first-round pick that flamed out in New York with the Jets. Nobody's chomping at the bit. That man was out there on the free agent market for 2 months before the Eagles signed him. It wasn't just us that passed up on him. The entire league did, right? Tyron Smith didn't want to come here. He wanted to try to win a Super Bowl. He wasn't coming to Washington. You weren't going to get that done here. Like there weren't many options to upgrade this roster. You know, they did what they felt like was the best in the best interest of this team without overextending themselves financially, because when they're ready to compete at a high level, they want to have all of that flexibility cap-wise. They did the right thing. But don't think for 1 second that people aren't going to hold that against him if they don't win. If the roster looks inferior, if we don't compete at a high enough level, that's a reflection on Adam Peters. You damn right he's pissed off. This is his first opportunity to be a GM. You don't think this shit matters to him? We got another thing coming. That guy cares. And we've been missing that for a long time here. And he knows his reputation is on the line. You know what I saw Dan Orlovsky say about the Giants? He didn't say, man, the Giants were the worst team in football in week 1. He said the team, the person that had the worst weekend across the entire league was the Giants GM, Joe Shane. Because the roster was an embarrassment. He put that roster together. They were on Hard Knocks. He looks like a buffoon. Because he wasn't willing to spend on this guy or that guy. He didn't want to pay Saquon. Well, I won't say he didn't want to pay Saquon because they tried to pay him the year before, and he made that abundantly clear. But he was the one that was cutting corners here. Well, we can't afford this guy. Let's go get this guy. He's a little bit cheaper. right? Those were his moves. Those were his decisions. He has to live with them. So yeah, Adam Peters was pissed off. I'm ready to, in order to start turning that corner to alleviate that pressure, we got to start kicking some ass. And they gave us a good ass to kick in the New York Giants. Now the question is, do we want to kick some ass or not? Do you want to kick some ass or not? You got the gold pants. It's Jayden Daniels' first start at home. It's a new name of the stadium, new vibes, new energy, new season. It's all new. How about you start anew here by winning your first NFC East game of the season? You didn't win a single one last season. Here's an opportunity to make a wrong right. Abner Durant, my guy, Ab. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Ab, writes, my man, Lou. What's going on, Ab? He says, ready to go all the way from CDMX, Mexico City, Mexico, to the now Northwest Stadium to rip the dub away from those G-men. Normally, when you show up, good things happen. That may not have always been the case last year, but generally speaking, you show up, good things happen. Enough's enough. Also, you're right about that. Enough's enough, especially with the Giants. Also, to tell JD5 to please adjust that chin strap properly. Geez, he's not going to do that either. That's who he is. That's how he wears his helmet. I'm not tripping about it until it becomes an issue. But yes, I would prefer him to tighten that shit up and not have it flying off. But that's how the young boys do. They like to wear their shit loose. He's not the only one whose lid pops off all the damn time. I don't understand the shit, but that's how he likes to do it. Just like he chews on his mouthpiece. He's got that whole Steph Curry thing going with his mouthpiece. I don't understand it, but that's his thing, right? Who am I to knock the hustle? It got him a Heisman Trophy. It got him the number 2 overall pick in the draft. I'm going to leave him alone, right? I'm going to leave him be. Frank McLaughlin, my guy. Frankie, baby. Aloha. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Frankie, baby, writes, aloha, Lou. Aloha, Frank. Says, is there new rules on replay? Is replay in effect throughout the game? Yes. So it's interesting that you asked that because they've changed the replay rules now to where New York can get involved if they see something wrong without the challenge flag being thrown, right? So, for instance, I was watching, I think it was our game where, and I had seen it earlier in the day, so I wasn't as blown away when I saw it in our game. I didn't like it, okay, because it didn't help us, but I'd seen it earlier, and I was like, what the? So I was aware that it could happen now. So what Frank is referring to is, in our game, if you recall, the Buccaneers were flagged on a 25-yard screen for an illegal man, an ineligible receiver downfield, which is an offensive lineman being illegally downfield. You can't be more than a yard further away from the line of scrimmage until the pass has been thrown. And they flagged him for being down the field. Then New York got involved and said, no, he wasn't down the field. He was good when the ball was thrown. And so they picked up the flag and gave them the 25 yards. That shit pissed me off, right? But in the spirit of trying to get things right, New York can get involved. If they see a wrong, they can right it. Now, you still got to throw your challenge flag for certain plays. You know, they're not going to help you out, but they're trying to expedite the game, speed it up, get things right. And so if they can avoid you having to throw the challenge flag, have the official run over to the monitor, look and all that, if they can jump in and say, no, we already checked. It wasn't right. They can correct it and get it right. So yeah, the replay rules have changed. Definitely have. He says, I mean, without being challenged or a scoring play. Yeah, they absolutely have changed. In the Tampa game, replay just jumped in on a call and I don't see a coach challenge. Yep. You got it. You were on it. I watched that happen in like 3 games over the weekend, and one of them was our game, and I was like, and it didn't benefit us, so it sucked. And then I was like, where y'all ass was at when they threw the damn flag on that bogus ass? But they can only step in, so they can't step in on gray area calls, judgment calls, right? They can only step in on black and white calls, like offsides or like that guy was down the field by a yard. They can look and see if he was down the field or not, right? Was it a first down or not? They can step in and say, no, he was out of bounds here where the ball was here. He was short of the sticks by, a half yard. They can step in on those types of things. Whereas they can't step in on pass interference. They can't step in on illegal, blocking the back or holding penalty. They can't step in on stuff like that. Those are judgment calls by the official. They're not going to second guess the judgment of their officiating crew. So only the black and white penalties where there's a clear right and wrong, there's no gray area. Either it was a penalty or it wasn't a penalty. That's when they can step in. Good observation, Frank. John Perez, my guy, JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, JP, writes, it's officially Giants week. Yes, it is, JP. Tired of losing to these bums. You and me both. Need Daniels to put the league on notice and cook Thibodeau like some baked ziti. I so badly want to crush the Giants, and I want him to have no stat line, do absolutely nothing to impact the game because I don't think he's very good. I've been saying it for a very long time. I did a whole video talking about how the NFC East isn't chock full of elite pass rushers. With Brian Burns being added to the Giants, there was this notion that, oh, this offensive line is going to get cooked. All these pass rushers in the NFC East. Well, one of the best pass rushers in the division is now gone in Hassan Reddick. The Eagles foolishly traded him away. They didn't want to pay him. And now the Jets are dealing with that backlash because he hasn't showed up. He's the only player in the league to hold out, and he's not playing around. He is standing on business, and we'll see how long. It doesn't sound like the Jets plan on giving him an extension. So I wonder, he's going to show up at some point because to accrue a full season, you have to show up by a certain time. It used to be week 11. I don't know if that rule has changed or not, but he can sit out for, up to however many weeks. And then he has to show up by a certain time to still get credit for this season. And then he'll be a free agent next year and he can get paid. So who knows? He may, and he's eating these fines and he's standing on business right now. I want to see how long this thing holds up. But anyway, Eagles don't have any elite rushers anymore. The Cowboys obviously have Michael Parsons, so he definitely is elite. And then the Giants have Burns and Thibodeau, but neither of them are elite to me. Burns is really good, but he hasn't proven to me that he's elite. He's just really good. Thibodeau isn't elite, and I don't think he's really good either, right? So I not only want to beat the Giants, I want to silence him because he's so cocky and arrogant, but he's not that good. It's one thing to talk your talk and you that dude. Like Jair Alexander for me he's cocky and arrogant, but he's trash. Now, I won't call him trash. He's not as good as he thinks he is, right? Every time I look up, Jair Alexander's getting cooked. Talking shit all the time. You still talking shit, bitch? As I see 23 running, chasing somebody as they score a touchdown. Like A.J. Brown on Friday night, right? Now he ended up getting a pick later in the game so he can still talk his shit, but Thibodeau is one of those dudes who thinks he's better than what he is. He's always got some shit to say, always talking some shit. Remember, he was talking about, who is this guy? He was talking about a really good coach in the league. Who is he? Who are you? Who are you? Okay? Like, I hope that we clamp his ass down, or if he gets pressured, Jayden runs away from him and he doesn't get a sack in this game, and we beat the hell out of him and send his ass packing. And then ask him the next time, who's your daddy? Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Door Gunner writes, befitting to finish DJ's starting career for what he has painfully put us through. Tired of dumpster juice Jones beating us. We're all sick and tired of being sick and tired of Daniel Jones playing well against us while he struggles against the remainder of the league. The rest of the division dominates him. The rest of the league dominates him. But Washington, for whatever reason, can't. And it's not just the last 2 years. It was prior to that. It was 2019 when we were playing in the toilet bowl for Chase Young. And he 5 touchdown passes he threw in that game. That's got to be a career high for him. 5 in overtime, including the game winner. He doesn't play like that against anyone else, just us. I'm tired. And Dan Quinn has the antidote, right? I'm sick and tired of Daniel Jones playing that way against us. And I think Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. have the antidote. Anthony P. Been a member for 26 months. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? We will be much better in the red zone this year, without a question. And I just outlined that and talked about it. Without a question, we will be way more dynamic in the red zone. Jayden Daniels and the threat of his legs makes us, I don't want to say unstoppable, but it puts us in that same Baltimore Ravens type of rarefied air where you got to deal with Lamar, you know, same with the Eagles with Jalen Hurts. And with Jayden, it's not, with Jalen Hurts, it's not even as pronounced as it is with Baltimore here in Watson, because he's not the athlete that those two are. He's more power. They always talk about, oh, he squats 500 pounds. He squats a small house. He ain't fast. He's physical. Our guys are fast. So I really, truly believe we're going to be a load to deal with in the red zone. Now, it may not bode well for you fantasy football owners who have Terry or Luke or, you know, any of the receivers or Ertz or any of the tight ends or any of that stuff. Might not bode well for you. But between Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, and Jayden Daniels, there will be a lot of touchdowns scored this season by the Commanders. Joe, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Joe writes, Lou, why don't they start both Coleman and Lucas? They're not going to be, you know, we talked about this last year when we were like, why not start Cornelius Lucas at right tackle? They're not going to bench Wiley. There's a level of comfort that I don't understand, but it's not for me to understand. That the last two staffs, okay, it's not just DQ and company, the last staff, you know, they had that because Ronald wasn't a big proponent of admitting a mistake. When they signed Andrew Norwell and Trey Turner, they didn't want to admit that they effed up. And so they put us through offensive line hell to try to prove a point that those two could still play when they were both washed, right? They don't like admitting a mistake. They only admitted the Nick Gates mistake because he was so egregious to the point where he was getting Sam Howell killed. They had to do something. And so this staff, I think, is just comfortable with Wiley because he's got NFL starting experience and he's got continuity that he's built over the last 2 years with Sam Cosmi. So they don't want to touch him. I would prefer Lucas to kick over there and play right tackle, but they seem to be comfortable with Wiley at tackle. I don't love it. I don't understand it, but and Wiley's better in the run game than Lucas is. There's that. But from a pass protection standpoint, it's not even close. Wiley stinks. And I know the Giants are going to get pressure. And I'm putting it in Jayden's hands to avoid pressure because they're going to get pressure because Andrew Wiley stinks. They're not going to do it, though. Door Gunner, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Only unless something forces their hand. But I don't see it happening. Door Gunner writes, in Germany on 9/11, headed to Egypt for mild exercise. That's crazy. That it's one of those. It's one of those moments in time that you'll never forget where you were when it happened. If you're old enough to remember, you'll never forget where you were. Like I said, and Quinn could, you know, recall just like that. And again, if you're of a certain age, you're going to know exactly where you were. It's one of those moments in history that you'll never forget. And you just happen to be in the military at the time. So that was, you know, crazy. It hit probably home for you guys a little bit harder and more for you guys than it did for us here on U.S. soil. Daily Grind Been a member for 36 months. 3-year Annie. Salute. Who writes, didn't realize how much I missed the after-game film study with the mob until last night. It's always a good time. And again, it's so informative. You learn so much watching the film because, again, there are a lot of false narratives that are perpetuated after the game because you're in the moment. You just watched it. You didn't see the all 22s. You just know what you saw on your television screen, on the TV copy. And the film always reveals that there's more to the story than meets the eye. And I've always felt that way. The only time that wasn't the case was last year with Eric Bieniemy. It just was trash all the way around. I remember always doing that with Scott Turner, where I'd be like pissed off, get to the film, and I'm like, man, our quarterbacks stink because Scott had dudes open. I told you my biggest knock on Scott Turner was his run game didn't marry with his pass game, so we never had play action fake, so that sucked. And his situational awareness was trash. That was my, if you're talking just pure pass game, scheming guys open, Scott Turner could do it. He didn't have any issues with that. His problem was, unlike his dad, who could marry up the run with the pass, he struggled with that because he wanted to do everything out of shotgun. So he had no semblance of a play action fake. And so there were no chunk plays that you were able to get because of play action. Antoine Hoskins, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Antoine writes, did you see the Shannon Sharp drama? Of course I did, but that's a podcast conversation. That's not for the Commanders Nightly News. But yeah, of course I saw it. We'll talk about that on the podcast tomorrow. Christopher McLaughlin, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Chris, thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Really, truly do appreciate you as always. Chris writes, hey, Lou. What's up, Chris? Hope all is well with you and the family. Likewise. He says, 2 questions. 1, how do you see the Giants D, especially front 4, getting after our O-line and try to create turnovers? And 2, how do you see us trying to stop Daniel Jones from running on us like in the past? So I'll answer those in the order that you asked them. So the first thing is, they're going to try to, like, if the Giants are to have any shot at stopping us in this game, they're going to have to win up front. And if they can somehow corral, and I don't think they can, Jayden Daniels after week 1, if nothing else, has me bullish on his ability to outrun, out leverage. Now, he's the Giants front is way more athletic than the Bucs front was. So it won't be as easy to get away and run around and do the things that he did last week. However, I still think that he's going to be able to out-leverage those guys. He's still faster than Kayvon Thibodeau. He's still faster than Brian Burns, right? Excuse me. And if you sidestep a guy or you make him miss and he's running full speed, now he has to stop, turn, and, change direction, you got him. Now you can accelerate and run away, and he can't catch you. So now if that guy's running at a dead sprint and Jayden Daniels trying to turn the corner, he's not going to be able to do it because those guys can run. But I just got this feeling that, they're going to try to take advantage of Wiley. Wiley constantly leaves the door open on the inside, right? Like, Wiley, close the screen door, bro, right? Like, Wiley is a guy that just, he bothers me because I take that back. Wiley will he'll close the screen door, right, which is the outer door, right? But he never closes the door to get inside the house, right? So while the screen door is closed, it's not locked. So you can still get in. And then once you get past the screen door, you can go inside, right? Because it's always open. So you can go inside. Yaya Diaby was beating him into the inside like he stole something. And if he tries to compensate for that, now that you can go around the edge. And so you kind of had a disadvantage with him. I like when guys go inside on, Andrew Wiley, because more likely than not, if you go inside and Jayden feels that pressure, you're inside. He's just going to out leverage you, get around you. Now you can't catch him, right? Which is what he did to Yaya Diaby those 2 times and was able to create those big runs. Like, you have to play contain and keep him in the pocket. The 2 times he was sacked in the game, it was when the pressure was coming from around him and the pocket was collapsing. He couldn't get outside. He wants to escape backwards. So if you're coming inside, he's going to escape backwards where he wants to go anyway. So our job is to make sure that if the pursuit is coming from around, he's got to have a pocket inside. And this is where, Dexter Lawrence comes into play. He's a problem. He's a behemoth inside. We're going to have to deal with him. If they're coming from the edges and Dexter Lawrence is collapsed in the pocket, there's nowhere for him to go. But if they come inside, he's just going to go outside of them, and they're going to be in trouble. So we have to protect. They don't blitz a lot in New York. Shane Bowen isn't a heavy blitz guy. So we have to protect against their 4-man rush. And if we can do that consistently, he's going to have time, and then you just got to find guys and execute. But they're going to try to win those one-on-one matchups. I think, in obvious pass situations, you need to chip on your way out. I wouldn't necessarily chip Thibodeau, but I'd definitely get a piece of Burns, right? Just help out whomever's blocking him. And then, I'd allow the rest of our guys. And then if you got a free guy inside, double Dexter Lawrence. Like, that's not even a question. I don't know who the other defensive tackle is. I don't care. Double Dexter Lawrence, unless he's singled up with Cosme. I trust Cosme. But the other guys, double his ass. And then chip Burns, and then whomever's blocking Thibodeau, just let them block Thibodeau one-on-one. I'll take my chances. As far as how do you see us trying to stop Daniel Jones from running on us? They had a plan in Dallas. Now, we're not as athletic as Dallas was defensively, but they did a really good job of corralling Daniel Jones and not allowing him to hurt them with his legs. Dan Quinn talked about Daniel Jones, said the best part of his game is his ability to run. So they're well aware. And obviously, because Quinn was in the division the last 3 years, he knows Daniel Jones's game, which is why I felt really good about getting Quinn, because not only is he going to help us beat teams like Dallas in the division, he's going to help us beat Philadelphia and the Giants. So I feel confident that not only is he going to help us beat Dallas, because he knows Dak Prescott, he knows their defensive personnel, he knows their offensive personnel. May not know how they're going to deploy them, but he knows their strengths and weaknesses and how to attack them. But he also knows the Giants. He knows Daniel Jones, and he coached against their head coach, which is technically not their offensive coordinator, but I think he's calling the plays this year, if I'm not mistaken. Whatever the case may be, he knows them, and he knows Daniel Jones, and he knows how to defend him. And I like our chances. I like our chances. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy Duncan writes, hey, Lou, did you watch my team play on Friday? We came, we played, we dominated. Your team played on Sunday. We lost. What are you talking about? Come on, Duncan, man. Stop fronting. Come on, man. Stop fronting. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, and it was February 4th, 2018. I got the banner on my wall. Why? What is this facade that you're putting up? I watched the Eagles game on Friday, and I wouldn't call that a dominant performance. Far from it. 3 turnovers is dominant to you? Duncan? That's what you call a dominant performance? Giving up almost 200 yards total offense to one player, 4 catches and like 150 yards receiving to one dude. That's what you call dominant? Huh. I guess we got different definitions of dominant, but you won. That's the most important part. Or I should say the Eagles won, because you're not really an Eagles fan. You're a Commanders fan. You just haven't admitted it to yourself yet. DJ23, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. DJ23, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, writes, he only cooks Charles Thibodeau Jr. and he gone. Yeah, Charles Leno used to get baptized by Kayvon Thibodeau, and like you said, he's gone now. I like my chances against Thibodeau because Thibodeau is basic, man. He's not a like, I didn't like him at Oregon. I didn't see it when everybody else said this guy's gonna be this, that, and the third. I was like, I don't see it. I see a guy with some athletic traits that are nice, has no skill whatsoever, no pass rush moves, just a guy that has some good movement skills. Nothing more, nothing less. I've seen plenty of those dudes come through the league and not make a mark. I will say he's put up some numbers, but they feel real Brian Arakpo-ish to me. His numbers feel real Arakpo-ish. That's what I liken it to. Arakpo used to always eat against somebody's third string tackle, pile up 3.5 sacks against the Eagles' backup third string tackle, and you'd be like, yo, Brian Arakpo is crazy. He'd get 2.5 sacks against the Titans and their second string tackle. Then when we play somebody good with a real tackle, crickets. That's Kayvon Thibodeau. His son is gone. Yeah, Charles Thibodeau Jr., as you put it. Good one. As you put it, is no longer here. I agree. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. DJ, you stupid. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, who writes. F, you the best. The Giants, I will be generous and gift one membership to Louie T. You beat the Giants, you said, and you will be generous and gift one membership. By the way, that is my vodka money, but I'm not worried. Meh. Look, I don't want you spending your vodka money. But if us winning forces you to bless somebody with a membership, and it keeps you sober during the stream so that we can actually get coherent thoughts out of you, then I think it's worth it to take your vodka money from you. Meh. Steve, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My guy, Steve, thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Louie T, if this kicker doesn't work out this week, I think we should tell AP and DQ to give Gunner a chance. Thoughts? What would we have to lose at this point? If Austin Seibert isn't the answer, and I don't know if they're going to have as quick a hook. Again, if he goes out and he goes 0 of 3, they might look for a new kicker, right? But if he's solid in this game, let's say he's 2 of 3 and the kickoffs are fine, they're not going to panic. If he's 1 of 3, they may not get rid of him. But if he's 0 for like Cade York was, and you want to kick it out of bounds, you got to go. And so if we can't figure it out with Austin Seibert, and I told you, I'm not convinced that he's the one. I don't think he's going to solve our kicking woes, but I hope I'm wrong. Why not give Gunner a shot? I've already said the only reason Gunner worries me is because Tressway is not a kickoff specialist. I don't think Gunner's got a big enough leg to kick touchbacks on kickoffs. So he's going to have to be in a position to tackle, and Gunner has already told us he's not in a position to tackle anybody. That's my biggest fear, right? That's my biggest fear. Red Wing 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Red Wings 01. Writes, so we hype up Diami all preseason and raved about his connection with JD, and now he's an afterthought again after week 1. Bit of an overreaction or nah? I'm kind of leaning towards nah, it's not an overreaction. I told you, DQ said something that struck me as a bit odd today, or it was not what he said, it was what he didn't say. So he made mention of all the receivers, including Noah Brown, who did not play last week, who they're trying to get up to speed to maybe get him some reps this week in the game. And he mentioned Terry, Luke, Olamide Zaccheaus, and he mentioned Noah Brown. Visibly, I watched it, so it was visibly absent, but very noticeably absent from that dialogue. That statement was one Diami Brown. And DQ, to me, is a very measured individual. He doesn't just say shit. Like, this isn't Ron Rivera, he's just flapping his gums and is just saying shit just to say shit, right? This isn't Eric Bieniemy who's talking in circles, giving you a sermon, but not actually saying shit. DQ talks for substance. And it's by design. Everything is done intentionally. Everything since DQ and AP have gotten here has been intentional. From how they've handled Jayden Daniels and giving him the starting job or forcing him to earn it, to how they've worked Johnny Newton back, how they're working in Brandon Coleman. Everything has been intentional. His press conferences have been intentional. How he's gone about his business has been intentional. I don't think he made a mistake or just omitted Diami from that answer. I really wanted somebody to ask, because I really wanted to hear what his response was going to be. I wanted somebody to ask about the lack of targets for Terry. And I wanted somebody to ask about Diami's lack of involvement. After seeing how much of a factor he was in the preseason, he didn't get a single target. I wanted somebody to ask about that. And I would have followed up with a Terry question. Hey, how is it that I watched Cooper Kupp on Sunday Night Football? He's got 21 targets, 14 catches. And Terry McLaurin, who is your number one receiver, the best receiver by far and away on this team, is tied for the amount of targets with a running back or two running backs and two other receivers. How is that possible? And I want to see what DQ says, because I really hope that was a part of the Tell the Truth Monday. I don't want to hear about Terry being a pro's pro and this, that, and the third if you're not going to get on the football. And again, I said this after this game immediately. I said it again on Monday. If he hits Terry on the deep ball, it makes us feel totally different about the 4 targets. We feel a lot different. If Terry has 2 catches for 79 yards and including a 67-yard touchdown, and are we complaining? Yeah, mildly. Like, yeah, he needs more targets. You see what he did when he got the 1 catch. But we would have been like, all right, Terry finna eat this year. Instead of us feeling like, there were people like, Terry's not a number 1. See, Terry's really a number 2. That shit started again because they didn't get on the football. Terry was open a lot. We watched it on the All-22s. We watched it together. Terry was open, especially down the field on a number of occasions. They just didn't get him the football, and he missed him once. So Diami not getting the football, not even getting a target, despite having played the 3rd most snaps of any receiver, it was jarring to me because I didn't expect that. And you remember, this is what I went against my better judgment, because for much of my football consuming life, I've put a lot of stock into the depth chart. And then over the last 5 years or so, coaches have, said over and over again, well, the depth chart is unofficial. It's not, necessarily my doing, trying to distance themselves from the depth chart. And while I say, okay, I hear you, I'm also like, no, I still believe what the depth chart says. But the depth chart this year was real sketchy, because we were seeing shit like it would come out the first time it came out, and Derek Forrest is ahead of Percy Butler. And we all know that wasn't the case. They love Percy Butler way more than they love. Derek Forrest wasn't even active for the game, right? He was literally the last safety to make the roster. He was on the bubble, okay? The second depth chart came out, the one for the regular season, and once again, Derek Forrest was ahead of Percy Butler. And again, I said, this is what's starting to make me think that there's not a lot of weight to this shit that we're looking at, all right? And then that depth chart came out for the regular season, and Luke McCaffrey was starting at the Z. And I remember us saying, oh, wait a minute. Hold up. Wait a minute. Let me put some Luke in it. And I was like, nah, that's some bullshit. We watched the preseason. Diami's the Z. We watched the preseason. He's the Z, right? I ain't worrying about that shit. Diami's, he gonna be out there. He gonna get the football. And then we get out there in the first play of the game, we went 11 personnel, which is what I knew they were going to do. And guess who was out there? The 3 dudes on the depth chart: Terry, Luke, OZ. I can't make this shit up. So, and who did they throw the football to? Terry, Luke, OZ. So, and again, didn't mention De'Ami today. Noah Brown is getting mentioned more, and he hasn't played a snap for us yet. I'm just telling you, I don't think they think highly enough of De'Ami on offense. So I don't think it's an overreaction. We could be wrong, and De'Ami could have 6 targets, 4 catches, 82 yards, and a touchdown in this game against the Giants on Sunday. Highly doubt it, though. Highly doubt it. They like the way he blocks, though. Like the way he blocks. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Big Money Sonny, writes, Lou, first off, can we please have a small amount of silence for the events that occurred 23 years ago? Never, ever forget. I am definitely open to that. Salutes to those who lost their lives 23 years ago on this, or yesterday now, but if you're on the East Coast, but those who gave their lives, who went there bravely to save lives, risking their own, and those who were just minding their business, going to work like they did every day for many years before that, who thought it was just another day, who lost their lives and didn't get to go home to their families. It's a tragic event, and it changed our lives and the way that we live and the way that we move forever. Big Money Sonny, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Who writes, Lou, second, what's up with the long commercials encouraging the degenerates? Look, man, it's what I get paid to do. There's some money to be made out there. It's not for everybody. Okay. Just like Joe Witt Jr. talked about the defense, and just like Dan Quinn talked about the entire team and the roster. It's not for everybody. Gambling is not for everybody. But if that's you, some money to be made, right? It's bread out there. If you want to put your hands on some of it, that's up to you, right? He says, salutes to you. Get that bread, but damn. Hey, look, man, there's some prop bets that are very tantalizing out there. Third, you out of pocket. Let's win, but let's not trash talk the Giants until we do. I ain't out of pocket. We're better than the Giants. But we were better than the Giants last year, and we didn't beat them. So that doesn't mean anything. I'm not trash talking the Giants. But we should beat them. And I expect to beat them. And I'm not going to back off of that. But I'm not going to, I said this already, I'm not going to trash talk the Giants. But I'm sick and tired of losing to a team that's inferior to us. We're better than them. We're better than them. They looked like the worst team in the league. Maybe not worse than Carolina. They were awful. They looked like one of the worst teams in football on Sunday. We did not. We may not have won, but the score doesn't even indicate. We were in that game. We were competitive with Tampa. That's a 19-10 game, late stages of the third into the fourth. So it's a 9-point game. We had the ball down 30-16, right? Or 30-14, excuse me. 30-14. What am I talking about? 10. It was 23-14, not 19-10. I don't know where I got that score from. It was 23-14, late stages of the third into the fourth. We had the football down 30-14. Granted, that's 2 scores and two-point conversions. But with the way we were moving the football, I hadn't waved a white flag yet. That didn't happen until We couldn't stop a 3rd and 17 wide receiver screen. That's when I quit. Okay, they got us. We're done. You know, I'm thinking of every math equation, every possible outcome as to how we can come back in the game. I don't quit until I realize it's over. So I'm not trash talking the Giants. I just think we're a better football team. Now we got to go out and prove it. Joe Rockhead, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. My guy, Joe Rockhead writes, "What's up, Lou? What's up, Joe?" Says, "Thanks for the all 22 breakdown. I was on social sounding like you. I told you JD5 was not pulling the trigger. Terry might have to pull his coat. 2024 might be a long preseason." They're gonna get it right. I'm not worried about Jayden not throwing the football. Like I said, it's a process, and as this season wears on, as he continues to get reps, as he continues to get more and more comfortable, that ball's gonna come out, and he's gonna hit that deep ball when those opportunities present themselves, and he's gonna show why he's the number 2 overall pick in the draft, not just because of his legs, but because of his ability to throw the football. Of all the quarterbacks that were rookies that started in their first NFL game in week 1, Jayden Daniels was the only one to have north of 60% completion percentage. All right. If I'm not mistaken, Caleb Williams didn't even have 50%. I don't think. Bo Nix was just over 50%. I think he was like 22 of 42 or something like that. And then Jayden was at 70%, 17 to 24, right? So, again, I think he's going to be just fine. Just fine. Icy Wayne, been a member for 6 months. Appreciate you, who writes, "Hey, Lou, Slayton has a concussion, maybe not a issue." Yeah, if he's got a concussion, I don't think he's playing this week. So that's one less weapon that they have, one less guy that can threaten us vertically. But you still got, like, gone are the days where Darius Slayton is their best receiver. Those days are over. Yeah, they got a guy named Malik Neighbors now. You may have heard of him. Really good rookie. Had a good game despite the struggles of the Giants offense. He had like 6 catches for 70 some odd yards or something like that. So he's still a problem, one that we have to deal with. And if we don't do a better job than what we did last week, he will wreak havoc. So Slayton may not play, but they still got other guys that can and will do damage if we don't clean up things on our end. Video channel, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Video channel writes, "Malik Neighbors about to go for 160 and 2 tuds on our league starting cornerback 63 and 64. Where's your confidence in your team spirit? Where is your belief, all right, that they're going to clean up some of those deficiencies? I get it, man. I get it. They didn't inspire a ton of confidence. And Malik Neighbors is really good. Somebody's got to give him the ball, though. Daniel Jones is not, the best guy to do that necessarily. But every dog has his day. And if we're not careful, those two could hook up and do some really good things. I said the same thing about Justin Fields, and then he came into Washington. Again, it's different, man, right? But he came into Washington and got the ball to DJ Moore 9 times for 230 and 3 touchdowns. So, shit. If Justin Fields could do that, then Daniel Jones can most certainly do that if we're not careful. But that was the last group. That's not this group. So, I'm not, that shit ain't, it's not on my watch. I'm not buying that that's happening, right? He's going to have to prove it to me because I don't see it happening, right? That's just how I feel. Duncan Wright, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Duncan writes, "Hey, Lou, even if Rio said you guys suck, you will not win. Oh, we will buy you." Oh, here we go. The Bach is kicking in. Jesus Christ. I thought you was holding on to the vodka money just in case we won the game, right? Oy vey. Can somebody translate for him, please? Where's his translator? After 2 drinks, we need a translator for him. Who's the house translator for Duncan Wright? Where are you? Somebody please decipher or decode this comment and read it to me or explain it to me so I can react to it. Where's your translator, Duncan? You know better than this. All right. Once you start, you suck. Once you start doing that, talk to the translator, have them type your messages so we can communicate. All right. Lord have mercy. Oh my God, Duncan. Anyway, that's gonna do it for me, your man Louie T, here on I got another super real quick. Icy Wayne, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB. Icy Wayne writes, hey Lou, when is the next Commanders King stream? I haven't set one up, but Rio has set one up on his channel. I don't know the exact date, but it's coming sometime down the pipeline. I think towards the end of the month. At some point, I'll probably get with the fellas. I think mine will be somewhere towards the midpoint of the season. I really wanted to let the season travel a little bit before I have them come on so they can kind of give me their thoughts on what they've seen thus far. It's early right now. Everybody's thoughts are all over the place. I want to kind of get our footing underneath us, give us a large enough sample size to really formulate an opinion. And then I want to have those guys on. So mine will probably come sometime at the end of October as you get to the trade deadline neighborhood right in that area. But I know Rio has us scheduled for one, I want to say the end of this month. So just keep your eyes peeled for that. So now we can close out the show. I thank you guys for joining me. I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. I'll figure out how we're gonna do the winner, and it may just be a pre-recorded video of me doing the drawing, and then I'll just throw that on the. But know that we're picking a winner tomorrow, right? So I will. I really want to pick a winner on Friday's show, to give you time to watch the video, to put the comment there in the comment section. Remember, if you're a member of the mob and you want a chance to win 2 free tickets to the Giants game, all you have to do is use the hashtag non-rival. That's non-rival. Hashtag NONRIVAL. Non-rival. So use that in the comment section of this video. Once this video has come to its conclusion, go to the comment section, use the hashtag non-rival. If you are a member of the MOBB, you will be thrown in a drawing for a chance to win 2 tickets to Sunday's game against the Giants at Northwest Stadium. Jayden Daniels, home debut. You can say this 10 years from now. I was at Jayden Daniels' first home game when he torched the Giants for 277 yards, 3 touchdowns, and another 2 rushing as we beat the Giants 38-10. You can say you were there for that. Non-rival. Hashtag non-rival is what you need to use. So want to give a final shout out to BetUS. Looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. Fastest payouts in the industry. Get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. Again, not many are giving you a chance to bet and then saying, you know what? We like you so much. Here's a portion of your money back, right? Not many are doing that. And then BetUS has upped the ante for my viewers. It was 125%. Now it is 150% sign-up bonus for up to $2,000 on your first 3 deposits when you use the promo code YouTube150. Head over to betus.com. Use the promo code YouTube150. I've shown you some prop bets where you can make some cold, hard cash if you're willing to risk it. No risk it, no biscuit. All right? BetUS is where you need to go to make you some money. And if you lose your money, you have a chance to get it back. Isn't that something? Anyway, want to really give a shout out to BetUS for sponsoring this stream. Really, truly do appreciate them for all their support. And I appreciate you for all of your support. And I look forward to chopping it up with you guys next time. Until then, you guys take care. Have a good one. God bless and good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's got